I wanted to talk about this example in here mostly because it's just a very interesting example. It's something that surprised me, and I do like when I get surprised by my own by my own brain, right, by my own mind. So the challenge here was making water, and the stuff that we see here at the top, this is water. It's quite messy, right? This was for print, by the way. At least this is a part of a bigger sculpture, but this was done for print, and this was supposed to be a translucent material, and it also was painted as well in the end. The final model, the final statue of this is available on Prime Studios website. It's called Drowned, and it's a bad girl holding a weapon. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about is the water, right? Because when I got the concept, everything was clear. Everything was clear in a sense that I knew what I was going to do, what kind of techniques I was going to use, right? Everything was just somewhat predictable. Water wasn't, because I had never sculpted water prior to that project. And the thing that was very useful for me is first knowing some tools inside of ZBrush. I definitely lack some knowledge in the program. At this point, I just kind of locked myself in some box, I suppose, even though I said that early in some chapter that I don't like to be placed in a box. But I use this program. I know what's the use for this program, like what I want out of this program, right? So that's why some of the things, or maybe even most of the things, I'm not even familiar. Like, I don't know what's going on in probably 70% of the tool panel, even though I've used ZBrush from version 2.5 or 2.6, something like that, right, for 20 years basically. But anyway, the tools that I do know, they helped me with this with the execution of water. And another thing, which is a whole subject in itself, it's the ability to create, or perhaps even evoke, some associations, right? I think that's just the key to creativity. That's just the key to becoming or being an artist. And by the way, I'm not claiming that I am an artist. It's a whole subject as well in its own, right? We're not gonna go there. But I think creative people, they just have more associations when it comes to anything, right? Any specific subject. It's just this openness of mind and the associations. And so in that sense, if that is correct, I think if we want to be a better artist, or if we want to be more creative, I think the key is not to study art, just art, right? We need to study everything. We need to be exposed to as many things as possible. That will 100%, this is just my theory, but I'm gonna stand behind it, we will 100% be more creative. Anyway, talking about water, those two things combined, this is what the process was like. So I've started with a block out, just like I do most of the times for things, right? So this was the block out for the base. And yeah, this whole idea about associations. So at first I was thinking that I should probably just sculpt the water, right? It's a nightmare. I don't know, I mean, traditional sculptures, and I've looked for some traditional sculpting examples, how people would just traditionally sculpt water, and it looked like it would take me months to do something like that, which I didn't have, and in terms of just constraints, right, time constraints. But at the same time, I felt like I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to spend months on doing something in the digital realm, because digital realm allows for more opportunities, right? For more tools to achieve the goal that we set for ourselves, or the goal that we need to achieve. Anyway, so I've decided that I'm gonna use something else, and I think I've tried sculpting just a little bit and failed. Well, not failed, but I realized that this is just not going anywhere. So what I did instead, I've used fiber mesh, and I've just masked out the top of the stand, right? And I do still have some of the settings saved for the fiber mesh. So this is what the end result was, right? This is the thickness. This is the amount of quote unquote hairs that I've selected. And then when I've applied the fiber mesh, what I did next was using groom brushes to create those kind of swirly thingies, right? To make those waves, and this is what the end result was. So clearly, this doesn't look like water. It's a good base, right? It's something, but it's definitely not water. So the next thing is to turn fiber mesh into geometry, which is this button right here, right? Convert BPR, excuse me, to geo. If you enjoy this content or find it useful, please consider supporting me by buying me a cup of coffee via the link in the description. And with that done, I've got something like this, right? So the fibers, they got thicker, and this way we get to see the shapes just a little bit better. But this is still not water, right? This is still not exactly what the end result was. But nonetheless, we still see those swirly things. And here it was the combination of groom brushes and some just some sculpting. So it was either clay brush to connect those I guess separate fibers, right? And then just perhaps adding more detail like that. So this is becoming more like hair sculpting rather than, well, I wanted to say rather than water sculpting, but I don't know much about water sculpting except for just one technique that I myself developed. So this is just something that I would use if I was to sculpt hair, right? So the same kind of techniques. And so with all of that, I then inflated the whole thing. So this way, if there was some space between the fibers, the space would just get smaller, right? And then perhaps I would just smooth something out. So we just remove some of this striation, some of this boxy endings, right, on things. And this is the end result. I've added some alpha here as well. I wanted to make it look like it's frothing, right? There was just foam on the waves, and that was the concept. And just the tools that I wanted to mention as well is the groom brush, and that little groom brush was just such an eye-opening as well, because from this project I've started to use it not just on something like this, right, some kind of elements, but I've started to use it on other organic things, because here those elements that we see here, right, this swirly things, this is all done with a spiral brush. All of this, right, this is all spiral groom brush. So let me just demonstrate what it looks like. At least it might not have been just groom spiral, it might have been something else in here as well. It might have been even there is another tool that is kind of cool. Maybe it's a blowout, I don't remember. So those I guess almost like shells looking elements, like this one, for example, right? It feels like something was blowing right into that, and it just creates this kind of a damaged shell looking effect. So this was one of the brushes as well. It might have been the brush that I've just selected. I don't remember, probably, right? So yeah, with a small intensity we can create this kind of thing, right? So for example, we can come in here and just do something of this nature, right? And this creates some kind of foamy effect as well. But the beautiful brush, the one that I used to make this swirly things, was probably spiral. So just setting the intensity to something super small, and then either just using as is or pressing Alt, we can create the swirly things, right? And that was the whole process. That was the approach to something that I had no idea how to execute, right? Like, how do you execute water? How do you begin sculpting water? And this is how I did it. This is what I was using in terms of the tools, and in terms of the, I guess, the mindset, the thing or two things that allowed me to execute this to such a degree that the client was happy, I was happy, I was surprised and happy. Those two things are just knowing the tools, right? At least the basics of the tools. Just knowing that there are some tools that might not be used every single day, every single time we start on something, but just knowing that they are there. And then this whole thing of associations, right, allowed me to think of hair as a base for water, and then it just came down to executing that. So I just wanted to point it out. It might create something in your mind, some kind of a process, like how to think about things differently, perhaps, right? Or if it just if you find yourself in a situation where you need to sculpt water, for example, maybe even fire, something like that, maybe even air, right? This is one of the ways that can be that we can use to achieve that that specific task.